think it's still at the very beginning for financial services in particular. And if you look at, for example, like clearing services in financial industry, you have on one hand those O2C deals between the banks, which are more and more moving on exchange based on the regulatory requirements. I mentioned G20 earlier. But if you talk about guaranteed clearing between institutions, financial institutions, there always has to be a kind of middleman. In this particular case, with the exchange business, is a so-called CCP, a central counterparty, but the blockchain doesn't have that. So now coming back, and those things are not solved yet. Let's say, what would happen if you would, let's say, use a blockchain technology-based software for clearing business, and there would be a conflict. Who is then in charge? Who is the? So everything is basically in this blockchain. It can be tracked back, but also from a legal perspective, who is the one in charge if things would go wrong? I think those things are not solved yet, but I'm sure solutions might come over time. Sometimes when you go to panel discussions or discussions, there's a lot of enthusiasm that the blockchain can replace entire banks. And I saw this before. I don't share that thought. I think it needs time. It needs time to be developed, and it will start in areas where applications are simpler and also not depending on speed. For example, when you talk about exchange trading, these days it's absolutely impossible because we are trading in microseconds. The blockchain can simply not do that now. But let's see what the technology will be in 5 to 10 years. We are at the start here, and it will have influence on financial industries. Technology like blockchain can be used to optimize processes and definitely other areas. And I'm very curious what's about to come, to be honest. So there cannot be a general legislation or regulation for FinTech because, it's not an industry. It's a development of financial services using technologies, and it depends then on the type of service being provided. Let's say if I'm offering investment services for retail investors, of course I have to be regulated, and every country has a different regulation here. Some countries are stricter than others. If I am offering also payment services, I think it's also similar. Whenever individuals come in, usually the regulators are a bit stricter because they want to protect the people on the street also from bad things to happen. So I think you need to look at it from a business perspective. What is the specific service about? And then how will it also be regulated? So payments, for example, even though we see a huge trend in India now and China, but it has been around since PayPal, kind of. Before that was the banks. But some countries do also not have certain modules of regulation in place. I think for China this is also true to a certain extent because financial markets started developing later than in the Western world. So there might be still a few pieces to add to cover also everything.